is a process, y'all. Like, it doesn't happen overnight, nor is there a finish date. There is not a finish date. This is not like a race where you get to the finish line and you can say, yay, you know, like, I'm victorious over my grief. No, that's not it. Like, get that out of your head right now, because that's not possible, right? So what is possible is you, again, learning how to cope with and be with that void, be with that hole, be with that loss in a way that works not only for you, but for everybody else around you. So one of the things that I wanted to say to you all is, oh, hey, everybody. Sorry, I've been flipping back and forth through my little slideshow, so I didn't even see all these folks. What's going on, y'all? So good to see everybody. Thanks for joining. Y'all make me feel special. But so one of the myths that we have around grief and loss is the best model for overcoming loss is to be on medication, right? How many people have I gotten in my practice who they had seen a psychiatrist prior to coming to my office, and that psychiatrist did exactly what they knew to do, right? And they gave that person a medication for their depression. Now, when you experience a loss, if you don't feel a sense of depression, I would say there's something going on, right? Like, I would encourage you to feel whatever it is you're feeling. And to mask it with a medication, and this is by no means saying don't take medication if your PCP or your psychiatrist or whoever it is prescribes it. However, I will say that it's not always, nor does it need to be, the first line of defense. One of the first lines of defenses is to just be with the emotions that come up. So the reframe of that is you can work through and overcome loss without medication. I am living proof of that. It took time. It took a lot of therapy. It took individual therapy. It took group therapy. It took weekly analysis. I think I was going through my own psychoanalysis for 3 years, 3 or 4 times a week. That was what I was doing then. I'm not saying that you need that. I'm going to come up to the next myth, but so I say all that to say it does take work. However, medication is not always necessary as the first line of defense. Now, if you find yourself just unable to get out of bed for 30, 60 days for an extended period of time and you just can't go through the motions anymore, then I would say let's go ahead and consider and think about what might be best for you at that point. So second myth, to overcome this loss, I have to wait for a long time. Now, the reframe is you don't have to wait a long time to feel good, positive, or neutral. So it actually reminds me of, I was working with somebody who had, this is relevant in some way. I'm going to figure out how to tie this all together. But I was working with a young man who had a dog phobia. And I should have clarified it at the beginning of our work together that the goal was not for him to love dogs. Because towards like the middle of our work together, he was like, but I don't like dogs. I don't want to like dogs. I was like, that's not the goal. The goal is that you just feel neutral about them, right? And so even with our losses, it's not that you're going to feel good about having this void, but if you can at least feel neutral or have those moments and start to recognize those positive moments in between, then that's what we want to do. So it's not about like just acting as though those feelings don't exist and saying, oh, I'm just going to put on a happy face and, be positive all the time. Like that's not actually a very good thing. So that being said, it's really about just getting to more of a neutral space, if not recognizing those moments of positivity in between. So the myth number 3 is it probably takes years in therapy to make this work, not to mention a lot of money. I hear you. I did it. Now, when I was in undergrad, because that's when I first started my therapy, my therapy kind of journey, it was free. And actually, I can say it was free because I got a full ride to undergrad, thankfully. So I wasn't actually paying for it. But for everybody else, you may have to come out of pocket to pay for therapy. And as I did when I was going through my analysis, and again, that was 4 days a week at like $150 a pop. I don't even know how I paid for it now that I think of it. Student loans. So that's why I'm still in debt. But anyway, I digress. So, a lot of people think though I need to be in therapy forever, and that's okay. Like, going to see somebody on a weekly basis, there's never an issue with it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So you only need a small amount of time and even a smaller investment to make this work. And I'm going to give you guys some tools to help you get closer to that space. Now, again, none of this is a substitute for therapy. I just wanted to give you some tools and tangible things that you can hold on to, especially during this holiday season. So that leads me to, let me come back. Yeah. Hey, I'm Melinda, and I'm just reading what you wrote, and absolutely. So yeah, and that sometimes, like you said, that hurt doesn't necessarily go away. But if we can just find ways to maybe even minimize it, or put it, just make it a little bit smaller, a little bit more doable on a day-to-day basis, that's the goal. So I'm going to talk about this action plan that I discussed in my book, and hopefully this can help you all out there. So the first and action is an acronym. Let me back up. Action is an acronym that I was able to come up with kind of based on Hal Elrod's The Miracle Morning. He came up with life savers, and savers is an acronym for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or writing. And he talks about doing those 6 things first thing in the morning for 10 minutes each, first hour of the morning. And that can just help jumpstart your day. And so when I was coming up with this plan, I thought, how can I come up with something that's helpful for people and understandable? And the one thing that I did throughout my loss and making sense of it all was I constantly was in action. I was constantly trying to seek out ways to not only help myself, but help others. And even on those days when I didn't feel like doing anything, that is a form of action. So sometimes, a lack of kind of physical action is still action in and of itself that is needed. That being said, the A is for affirmations or afformations. So affirmations are repeating a phrase, an I am phrase to yourself, even if you don't believe it initially, right? So if you think about it, in your grief, in your loss, you probably have said to yourself, I don't think I'll ever get over this. You may have said to yourself, I'll never, be whole again. I'm always going to be sad. I'm always going to be hurt, whatever it is. But you've repeated some of these things to yourself, and I get it. But how can we say something to ourselves that feels a little bit more empowering? So if we say, I am resourceful and I have all that I need to help me through this loss, how different does that feel than I'm so helpless right now, right? How about I let go of the limiting belief that I will be unable to handle this? I have the resources, support, and strength that I need. So, from this point forward, I'm maintaining the unwavering belief that I am a resourceful and strong individual, and I'm continuing to get better every day. I actually, in my hypnosis work with people, I talk to them about saying something to themselves 10 times a day. And that is each and every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Now, you can substitute better for stronger, more confident, whatever it is, you can substitute it. But saying to yourself each and every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better, something along those lines, because we want to trick the mind into believing that you're constantly improving, and you are already well on that trajectory and on that path. So Our minds don't understand the difference between past and present. Because if I were to ask you right now, think of a time when you were really sad, what that felt like, you would probably be able to bring that up like that, right? Or if I said, think about a time in the future when you're going to have to speak in front of a group of people and you strongly dislike speaking in front of people, what would happen? You'd probably feel something in your chest, in your stomach, some sort of, so that just is to show that our brains don't understand the difference between past and present, past and future. So if we can trick it into believing what we want it to believe in the present, then that's exactly what we do. And that's the point of saying something in an I am statement. All right. Affirmations are something that you ask in the form of a question. And you ask it rhetorically. So you say, why is it so easy for me to be resourceful during difficult times? Why is it so easy for me to find hope in despair? Why is it so easy for me to access peace even in a dark time? Why is it so easy? Why is it so effortless? And it's not that it always is, but again, it's about tricking the mind to believe that that's exactly where you are. Man, it's so easy for me to find peace even in darkness, right? So that's the A of the action plan. The C is more about creativity, so expressing yourself. When we get stuck in our grief, in our mourning process, we tend to kind of stay in the frontal lobe of things, and which is just we try to logic and rationalize our way out of our grief. That doesn't work. Like our logical part of our thinking is 10% of our thinking. The rest is the creative, right brain stuff. And so what we want to do is really get to that part of the brain and really access that stuff. So being creative is something that can be very helpful. I don't know if some of you saw maybe earlier on Facebook today, I posted a rap that I wrote many years ago, back when I was an MC. Microphone check, 1 2 1 2. Anyway, but yeah, so this is something that I wrote, when I was in that dark space of missing my sister, and it was just a rap that I performed at a scholarship raising party that we had for her, and it was very helpful in getting my emotions out and making sense of them. So I say that to say, practice using your creativity. I've spoken to people on my podcast who talked about really accessing parts of themselves that they didn't even know existed. They're able to paint and draw and, write poetry or whatever it may be that they weren't doing before their loss. So again, even in that dark period, there's an opportunity for you to find things out about yourself that you didn't even know existed. So whether it's painting, writing, drawing, poetry, dance, music, movement, express yourself, y'all. Express yourself, right? You didn't logic your way into this, so why would you try to logic it out? So exercising that creative part. The T is for talking. Talk to a professional. There are people like myself who are out there who are trained to do this work to help you through whatever it is you're going through. So many times people say, like, I know why I'm sad. Why do I need to talk to anybody? Why not? Like, we are connective human beings. Like, we are here to connect with each other. So when we just stay in our own minds, and that can be a very dangerous place for us, when we stay up here and we don't share it with other people, especially professionals who are there to help us through this stuff, it's not going to be good. So find a local therapist, find somebody online, y'all. I do online therapy. There are so many people who do online therapy right now. Live Health Online, what is it, Amwell, there's Talkspace, there's BetterHelp, which I just applied to. So there's all sorts of online platforms that you can go to. No excuse really for you not to see somebody and talk to somebody. So that's the talking part. The introspection is I, and that is